Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Story number 1. Great Human, written by Ogosh. Humanity was surprised to discover, after only 200 Earth years into deep space colonization, and after only meeting a handful of other alien races, that our reputation had preceded us. In 2443, when the colony ship Cabot made contact with a new race on its journey to Arm 6, they had asked us if we had heard of the aliens calling themselves Humanity. We didn't understand the reaction of reverence when the colonists said, "We're it." It turns out that Humanity had been famous on the galactic stage since the War of the Tashmari some 80 years prior. We had left such an impression with them that they went and warned the rest of the space about the two-legged psychos. Upon surrendering to Humanity, the Tashmari High Commander, Yasha Kalmais, retreated into solitude for several days, seemingly in shame. Soon after, he came out of hiding and sent out a warning to all non-human communication hubs. He composed a poem steeped in fear, respect, and admiration that told the galaxy of the nature of humanity. What was more surprising to us, however, was that Kalmais later that day sent two-word message to Earth. "You're welcome." It took us 84 years to realize why he'd sent that. Find you a Tashmari, greatest of warriors, their eyes keen, their fists clenched, their beaks sharp. No, they are great, but only in war. Find you an Avio, greatest of diplomats, their intentions clear, their manners welcoming, their pacts unbroken. No, they are great, but only in diplomacy. Find you a Herod, greatest of builders, their homes sturdy, their towers high, their tools pristine. No, they are great, but only in building. Find you a human, greatness itself. Their war is greatness, their diplomacy is greatness, their building is greatness. They turn barren sand, and greatness blooms. They swim through stars, and greatness rides in their wake. They sunder their foe until their foe learns of their greatness. Great of teaching, great of learning, great of stealing, great of creating, great of destroying, great of mind, great of body, great of soul. No, they are great in all. Initially, we thought Kalmai's gift to us was cowering the galaxy before we ever got there, but there was greater wisdom in his actions. Thanks to Kalmais, the Tashmari were the only species we ever had to embarrass by besting them at their own game. He didn't do it for us. End of story. Story number 2. Stranded, written by Warp Mind. T-minus 6 days, 14 hours, 33 minutes. Krath swore briefly at the smoking console before pointing the, vastly more effective, fire extinguisher at it. He really shouldn't have skipped the last maintenance cycle, and now he was going to pay for his lapse in judgment. Navigation was out, controls were almost shot, and he was rapidly, too rapidly, approaching the atmosphere of a dead world. The only things still working were, well, comms were still operational, and the emergency signal was blasting like a frightened livestock. "This is the Terran Cargo Hauler, Australia, receiving your emergency signal. Please confirm and identify." Krath scrambled for the communications console. "This is the Rathlegan cargo freighter, Lithe Songbird. I've lost navigation to most of my consoles due to maintenance failure. I need help rather urgently. Currently, an approach vector to Rethus 3. Can you provide assistance?" Balls. "That's a bit of out of our way. We're heading in the opposite, please hold." Krath frowned. He had heard humans were usually ready to go through hell to save a lost ship. But if they were headed in the opposite direction, a course change would cost. "Lithe Songbird, are you still there?" Krath exhaled. "Still here, Australia, though time is passing. Do you have some good news for me?" "Yes, and, no. We're already coming about to Rethus 3, but between course corrections and gravity wells, we're 5 to 6 standard days away from Rethus 3. Do you think you can maintain orbit until then? Krath looked at the view screen and the myriad of blackened, dead keys and consoles. Not really. I'll be lucky to not break up on impact with the atmosphere. A small pause again. Understood, Light Songbird. We'll be there as soon as the drive can handle it, and hope to find you alive. We'll make sure to bring you home, one way or another. Krath nodded slowly. I'll try to land at least somewhat intact. She's built for re-entry, but the angle isn't good. Light Songbird out, and, I hope to see you in 5 to 6. Australia out, good luck. T-minus 6 days, 14 hours, 22 minutes. Krath cast a quick glance in a mirror and plucked out a few singed hairs from when the console exploded. When the comms console chirped again, a local signal. That couldn't be Light Songbird, this is Colonel Ferguson. Heard you're in trouble. Do you have any control at all? Minimal, but yes, I can probably make minor course corrections, but nothing near what I need to avoid going down. That is fine, I can see your approach. I have a beacon for you here, transmitting course changes now. It's the best shot. Well, your only shot. You have less than 3 standard minutes, counting from now. Kath blinked at the crude instructions. A 17-degree course correction wouldn't do anything normally, but this colonel seemed convinced. The nav thrusters protested, but he saw the planet shift ever so slightly on the view screen and something tingled in his inner ear, like a ship was pulled by another gravity well, one that worked against the planet. Light Songbird, I see you made it. The moon's unusually dense, and you managed to pass the Lagrange point. It won't save your orbit, but it'll help slingshot you to a better re-entry angle. Try and land as close to the beacon as you can. There is a decently sized landing site that you can use. I'll try and keep everything ready for you. Krath exhaled slowly as he felt the ship tremble as he started to approach the edge of the atmosphere. He could feel the gravity shift again, and carefully ease the ship down the layers of gas, one more toxic than the other. Thank the stars the ship lived up to its namesake when it was gliding on the wind. Well, made an honest attempt, at least. T-minus 6 days, 9 hours, and 54 minutes. Krath groaned, reluctantly regaining consciousness after a bumpy landing. He glared over at the comms console, which was chirping incessantly. If anyone's alive in there, please respond. It's been 10 minutes since you hit the ground, and no signal. If anyone's alive, he growled, snagging the microphone in 4 of his 6 hands. I'm alive. Just stop shouting. My head hurts. There was a hint of relief on the voice on the other end. Oh, good. If you don't mind, I'll come over and take a look at the ship. You said control console and navigation are both out. Krath let go of the mic with 2 of his hands. Yeah, I don't think any else is broken, at least on the inside. But I don't know if there's any exterior damage. He could almost hear the colonel smirk. She'll be all right, mate. Nothing I can see from this end. Just stay clear of the airlock, just in case. Lots of nasty gases in the atmosphere here. Some 20 minutes later, Krath heard the airlock cycle, followed by heavy footsteps. A single, heavy-set individual approaching the bridge. All right, Captain. Where's the patient? I take it that you're not able to troubleshoot the old girl yourself. Krath frowned at the sight. The colonel was a little shorter than himself, but twice as wide, and still wearing a full EVA suit with tinted glass. It was slightly unsettling, even as he set down a toolbox and started to unbolt the ruined console. Ah, I see what happened. This capacitor overloaded. Wouldn't have taken 3 minutes to fix during a routine maintenance. Krath shook his head. So, you can repair my ship easily. The colonel shook his head. Or so it would appear. Not a chance, mate. It blew and took 2 consoles out in the process. You're going to need a lot more replacement than just a capacitor. Good news is, I can fix her. Bad news is, it'll take a few days to assemble the consoles, and your nav charts are probably gone. No, if we can get you into orbit, the Australia can probably help sort that out. Will you be able to install parts on your own while I build the rest? Krath was still looking at the treacherous capacitor. Depends on how complicated the installation is, yeah. If I just have to plug in connectors and fasten circuit boards in place, then yes. If I have to solder the circuit, then no. The Colonel gave a thumbs-up gesture. Good! I have the parts I need to build the replacement. Just sit tight while I get started. T-minus 3 days, 4 hours, and 40 minutes. Grath let out a few choice expletives as the spark singed his fingertips, before heading back to the radio. Colonel, I do hope no ill will come from the twin capacitors deciding to electrocute me while I'm connecting them. No, not outside of a bit of less hair growth on the electrocuted spot. You know, if not for the planet's inhospitable condition, company's nice. Rethus 3 used to be a beautiful place. Grath hesitated. It's listed as a dead world. What happened? The Colonel seemed to be lost in thought for a few seconds. There was a war. The colony was evacuated when it was clear that the planet wouldn't be able to sustain life anymore. A planet killer weapon. Don't know how it worked. I think it froze the molten core or something, and then went downhill from there. Planet's magnetic field disappeared. Plants and animals began to die off. In short, nothing could have lived here without really cumbersome protection and imported food supplies. Grath nodded thoughtfully. I heard the Thurgian hegemony used weapons like that. The Terran coalition glassed their last world ages ago, though. There was another pause. Yeah, that sounds about right. Wasn't anything alive on this planet for decades afterwards. I looked towards the console again. If you like, I could give you a lift wherever you'd like, once the songbird lives again. A wry laugh. Yeah, no thanks, mate, but no thanks. I have a job here for a little while longer. Can't leave it unfinished. But there is one thing. I've got something I'd like to hand over to my son, Mikey. I know he's working on the Australia, and if you could pass it along when you meet up with him, that'd be kind of you. Kath grinned. Certainly, I can bring a small gift to Mikey Ferguson, was it? How will I know it's him? Easy enough, just ask to see him. All right, I've got focus on this bit here. It's a tricky bit of circuitry here. D-minus 2 minutes. Colonel Ferguson had retreated to the Contal Tower and maneuvered the cranes to help the lithe songbird launch gracefully and vertically. Grath ran all 6 hands affectionately over the keys before thumbing the radio. Everything ready for launch here. I've got Mikey's package safely in the cabinet. All clear on your end? All clear. Give my best to the kid and try not to skip maintenance next time. Indeed, well, how long until I should launch? Any time, but in 2 hours the window of opportunity will close due to the moon. For what it's worth, Grath, I'll miss having you around. Grath smiled. Likewise, Colonel, but perhaps I can come by in a year or two, maybe give you a lift back to home. Nah, you'll probably not find me here then, but I do appreciate the offer. No get, before I change my mind. The beacon shone brightly as I fired up the launch sequence, pointing my way back into orbit, where I'd be able to wait for the Australia. 20 hours later, orbit. Grath was chaperoned through the umbilical corridor to the Australia, and brought to meet a venerable human sporting some quite impressive white facial fur, like 2 massive horns stretching out to the sides from just under his nose. He extended a hand in greeting, and the Grath shook it enthusiastically. Glad you can make it. My navigational charts are sadly all gone, and I'll need them replaced, if you'd be willing to share. The old human nodded. Of course, sir. Though I am surprised you managed to stay in orbit for over 6 days after your last message. Grath shook his head. I didn't. But for a long story, is there a Mikey Ferguson here? The old man frowned. That's me, Captain Michael Ferguson. Why? Grath arched an eyebrow and handed over a little package. Really? The Colonel made me expect someone much younger. He sent this gift. Captain Ferguson quickly opened the little box and took out a pair of old, stained dog tags, visibly stamped with Ferguson James Colonel. He gave Grath a long look. I'll ask my navigator to install the charts for you, but you'd best come with me and tell me that story. T-minus 62 years, 4 months, 11 days, 13 hours, and 44 minutes. James Ferguson watched the last ship with his own family on board streak towards the sky, towards safety. The damnable Thurdian had killed the planet, and it wouldn't be long now until nothing could survive there anymore. He reached for the microphone. Looking good, Brigandine. Take care of your passengers. You carry the most precious things in the world there. Copy that, Colonel. Any messages you want me to pass along? He sighed. Tell Tilda and Mikey that I'm sorry, and that they should live well. Someone had to stay and make sure everyone else got off the planet. Everyone else. Had to be me. Someone else might have been less vigilant. Colonel James Ferguson sat in a chair facing the observation window and followed the starship's trajectory until it couldn't be seen anymore. It would be over 60 years before he stood up again to get one more person off the planet. End of story. Just a quick shout out to the T5 peeps. Bob the Dragon, Cat Crab Lobster, Data Magnet, Dark Machine, Bezic, Try Again 95, Pudic Yol, Astrea the Dreamer, Caspar Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Athelia, Meridian 117, and Jordan Bucksmorm. Thank you very much. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed. There are links down below, both to support this channel and for the author of this fiction. Anyways, I hope you all have a fantastic one, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.